Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and today I would like to share with you guys my final thoughts on the Ferrum Forge Knifeworks button lock stinger. There are 3 variations of this knife. I did purchase it directly from Ferrum Forge, but just within the last couple days, Blade HQ, another wonderful online retailer, acquired a handful of them, and the prices are pretty much about the same. So I'll go through pricing real quick. They're all still available, all 3 variations. The one you see here in front of you has a bead blasted blade and a shred carbon fiber. Now, it says shred carbon fiber, but it's more like camo carbon because the shred pieces are very, very large. Unfortunately, I don't have a piece of shred carbon fiber to compare to, but just take my word that these are significantly larger pieces. You could see the reflectivity of some of the pieces. It's still very beautiful, and they did get some pretty high quality carbon to work with for their inlays, which I'm very thankful for. As you guys know, shred carbon fiber and all these different type of like fancy carbon inlays, all these materials, they are, you know, man-made, and there are higher end and low end to them, and they can come with a little bit of variation, things like voids, chipping, and things like that sometimes don't get caught during the QC process. But I count myself lucky because I think that the inlays on this particular unit are quite beautiful. So there's a shred. They have a brimstone carbon fiber, and I think that's the one that's going to catch a lot of people's attention. It's just red mixed in. It honestly looks pretty darn cool, but red isn't really my thing. But like I said, that one's definitely going to be a head turner for sure. And then there is a slightly more affordable option that is just all stone wash with no inlays at all. Looking back, I think I might have gone just without the one without inlays, just plain stonewash, because I do enjoy anodizing. And while on this particular knife you are actually able to very easily remove the inlays, they are held on each side with these T6 little bits here, those little screws there, excuse me. And the price difference between the carbon inlays and without inlay, so the ones that are with inlay are $209 and 99 cents. That is, okay, so it's 5 cents less on Blade HQ. And then the full stonewash is $194.99, and then on Blade HQ it's $194.95. So 5 cents difference, not really that big of a deal to buy direct from Ferrum Forge or for Blade HQ. Shipping time, it doesn't really, I don't really think you're going to see much of a difference. Now, this is the only stinger that I have personally handled. There have been many different iterations of this knife, and it's been a very popular, I wouldn't say flagship model for Ferrum Forge for one of their designs, but it's definitely one that a lot of people enjoy. And you know, rightly so. It's a very simple, easy to work around design for sure. Definitely easy to manipulate, and for a lot of people with different variations in hand size to, you know, get accustomed to using it. So there were just regular steel liner lock versions with G10. Those were like right under $100. They made premium ones. There's one here on Blade HQ. Actually, it's a frame lock. It looks pretty darn nice. It's $175. It's just stonewash. I think it's the same blade length. They have it here 3.25 for that frame lock version, and the blade length on the button lock one 3.2. So it's, I'm assuming they're the same dimensions pretty much all across the board. It's just the different opening mechanism and how you interact with the knife overall. The blade material, as far as I'm aware, they've always used the same blade material. It's Nitro V, and there is a little steel stamp right there. So it's not obtrusive, it's not, you know, this giant marking, excuse the little smudges there. But Nitro V, at this price point, I know a lot of people are probably gonna have an issue with it. Me personally, I believe that We Knife Co., the OEM company that has been making a lot of stuff for Ferrum Forge, they treat their stuff pretty darn well. And I actually did just sharpen this today. I did do a lot of cardboard breakdown and just messing around with this. I have taken it apart multiple times, and we'll get into the reasons why. I had some just a mess with the button lock there. I ended up getting some pretty gnarly button lock stick, but that was my fault. So I reassembled the knife incorrectly, and it led to just disgusting lock stick. But I reassembled it the right way, and now the lock stick it's like 95% gone. There is still the slightest little bit, but the lockup is rock solid. The action is wonderful. That's pretty much it with that. Yeah, the Nitro V blade material, it's what I would consider top tier budget blade material. Definitely borderline super steel. It's good stuff. I have no issue with it. It's wonderful to sharpen, wonderful to use. I've never experienced chipping or corrosion, things like that. So I genuinely believe that it's a well-rounded steel, and I'm cool with it at this price point. Now almost 200 bucks. Yeah, that's kind of a stretch, but I'm okay with that. Let's get into some size comparison knives. I have 6 here to share with you. We can do a couple large ones just to show you that the Stinger, yeah, it's definitely going to be a medium-sized knife. Here we have the We Praxis Spyderco PM2. Let's get some medium-sized knives. Here we have Spyderco Native 5. Just a little bit stumpier. F5.5. And last two here. Demco 80-20.5. And then a bug out. So hopefully these 6 knives help you guys get a good visual aid on what this guy is really all about. One thing that definitely did catch me by surprise is just how thick this thing is in hand. It says here directly on Ferrum Forge's website, the dimensions, the handle thickness is 1/2 inch thick, and yeah, it is very thick. In relation to how thin the blade actually is, it's so awkward, but like, it looks awkward, but it feels great. It really does. It just feels like you're holding just this little nimble shard right here, and it's just, everything is very well rounded. Just take a look at that, some up and closies. Very well rounded, very well finished. A little bit of stick there, as you can hear. There is no backspacer. It's kind of like a clamshell construction, and there is some decorative milling there. Not really to add any traction. It's just a decorative piece there, essentially, just for visual. Perfectly centered, as you can see, and it's actually very easy to maintain, disassemble, reassemble this knife. But what can we do for thickness? I mean, yeah, so you could do this guy, Demco 80-20.5. Yeah, it's definitely a whole lot thicker. Definitely a whole lot thicker. But with that being said, it is still very comfortable in hand, and I do definitely enjoy that. It's very hand feeling, super comfy. Even being choked up here. Now, if you have thicker fingers, I have large to extra large size hands, but slim fingers. So this for me is very comfortable. But if you do have meatier fingers, you might start to nick yourself right there. After a sharpening or two, yeah, eventually it'll probably start to nick me as well, but I'm not too worried about it. Let's take a look at this flipper tab back here. There is some light jimping, and of course, a design cue from Ferrum Forge is going to be the marked captured pivot there, and the shape of their flipper tab. Now, their flipper tab is widely known as being one of the most comfortable flipper tabs, because it's not just sticking straight out, kind of like a little pocket pecker. I believe Nick Shabazz says that, but it doesn't look like this. That's what I'm saying. Just the slightest little cant down and it becomes one of the most comfortable flipper tabs that I honestly have ever experienced. And there have probably been like 2 to 3 other Ferrum Forge designs that have the same flipper tab, and yeah, I will say from personal experience, it is very comfortable. The jimping is well rounded. It's not, you know, pointless. There are some knives that I have experienced recently where they have jimping and it's just like, why was that even there? But the effort's nice. Here, the jimping is, everything is just well thought out, and that's good stuff. The button, now it does protrude just a little bit. It is domed and also very comfortable. It's not sharp or anything like that. Everything is well finished. There is a little cutout area so it doesn't stick out too much. So it's like recessed, but it's not. But it's not in the way. It's not something that you're gonna, if you're back here or even if you're up here, if your index finger does reach around far enough, you can touch it. But being in that position, I don't have enough strength to push it. It's, like I said, it's half an inch thick. And while I can touch it, I can't, me personally, I can't depress that button right there. So it's just not gonna happen. So I will say I'm very thankful for this being a very safe design. Also, you can't pick out the tip there, and you're not gonna be able to feel that blade even if you have longer nails. It's nested down well in there, and I definitely appreciate that. I'm sure a lot of you guys will as well. Looking at some of the hardware on this, a lot of T6s, not the biggest fan. They're all steel and they are well machined. My WeHa bits that I typically use for disassembly, I didn't have much of an issue. The depth on all of them, they're wonderful. Again, this is produced by We Knife Co. Never really had any issue with their hardware. Steel or titanium, really doesn't matter. But this thing is a little weighty. We can go ahead and check the weight. I have my little scale here. This thing is kind of a brick. 3.4. Now 3.4 ounces doesn't sound like anything crazy, but once you guys get this in hand, it feels like a little brick, but it's not a big deal. And you know, the grand scheme of things, it's really not that crazy. A couple different deployment methods. Obviously you have the flipper tab. You can also button gravity, swing it out, and that's very satisfying. It's very easy to time it properly. The spring that they use here, it is strong enough and everything is well tuned to where you don't get that bounce. Once it's in and once it's coming down, it's nice and snappy. Check that out. Yeah, that's nice. So even when it's disengaged, running on ceramic ball bearings, it is very smooth. Now, you also have this little fuller here, and for some people it might be a little snug to get at it, but it is sharp enough where if you have more callous skin and maybe just a little bit of nail, it's very easy to actually get in there and interact with that little fuller right there. I think that this would have been a wonderful model to add thumb studs. And even now you can add a quick stud to it if you really wanted to. Being right there, it wouldn't really, yeah, it wouldn't even be in the way of the cutting path at all if you put a quick stud on there, and it wouldn't even bump up against the actual scales there. So that might be something that you'd want to look into, because I think that having that would be really nice. The height of the scales would definitely be able to accommodate some nice studs. So it would have been cool if it came like that from the factory, since they're kind of not revising, but they're doing cool stuff, you know, with the overall silhouette of the Stinger. You know, it's had its budget time. They did a premium with a frame lock, right? And now they're doing a button lock. What's next? An axis lock style, a ball lock, or something like that. I believe that there's still some life in this model for sure, and I'm definitely happy with this overall for the most part. There are only a couple little issues that I had with it. This knife is actually very sensitive in the sense that the reason why I messed up the action so terribly and created just horrendous lock stick is because when I took this apart, cleaned it out, I put it back together, and I cranked down on the hardware, including the pivot. I cranked down to the point where I felt like it was secure, and that was the issue. So I had to back it off a little bit and put a little bit more Loctite that I'm used to and just let it sit for like a day and a half or so. And the action's gotten back to very close to how it was out of the box. There is the slightest little bit of stick. That's all there really is. It's not that annoying. It's really not a big deal. I've had other, button lock knives with even worse stick than that. But at least for me and my unit, that was the trick. Don't crank down your hardware all the way. You have this little body screw, this T6, and a T8 pivot. Those are really the only main pieces of hardware you will be interacting with when it comes to disassembly. The clip, you can leave it on there because that is not something anchoring anything down, just the clip. And then the two screws, two T6s on each side are just for the inlays. There is no epoxy, there is no nothing holding them in. They come up very easily, and they're very well machined and well rounded. Like I mentioned earlier, there aren't any gaps or anything crazy like that. Overall, I will say that, yeah, this is actually very recommendable. If you have a Stinger and you enjoy it, whether it's the frame lock or the budget one, I believe that this is one to look into. And especially the one with that's a little bit more affordable without the inlays, because the inlays are cool, yeah, but for whatever reason, I personally think that the cheaper one is a little bit better because you still get that cool factor of the button lock and the fidgetiness. Of course, you get the wonderful overall silhouette of the Stinger. It's a little bit more affordable, and you can do some customization to it if that's something that you're into. Going back, I'd probably get that one again just because it costs a little bit less, but I don't regret my purchase, and like I said, it's definitely recommendable for sure. So it's a good little knife. I definitely enjoy it. And with that being said, I will be linking down what I can in the description. If you guys like what you see here, go ahead and leave a like, leave any comment. If you have a Stinger, you're thinking about getting one, your thoughts on the design, any improvements you guys might think that it could have. Do you guys have an issue with the price? Do you guys have an issue with the blade steel? Let me know. Let's chat in the comments section. If you are subscribed, thank you so much. I most definitely appreciate all your guys' support and your patience, of course. And yeah, that's it. Have a wonderful rest of your day.